Hello and welcome back to another episode of Wiggy Reviews. Like I said last week, today I'm going to be reviewing a very special book. Well, special in the sense that it was okay. Anyways, I'm getting ahead of myself. Anyways, let's just go ahead and jump right in, huh? Today I am going to be reviewing Bradstreet Gate by Robin Kirman. Alright, so what is Bradstreet Gate about? Well, Bradstreet Gate is mainly about three people. Georgia, Charlie, and Alice. Now, what do these three people have in common? Well, I'm gonna tell you. Anyways, so they all went to Harvard. For different reasons. One went for creative writing, one went for business, and I can't remember what Georgia went for. She kind of was floating through on all different majors. So they all met in Harvard, and they all kind of had this one professor that kind of influenced them each in different ways. And that professor's name was Sturrow. I cannot for the life of me remember his first name. I could look it up, but it's over there, and I'm lazy. But his last name is Sturrow, and they revert to him as Sturrow throughout the entire book. So even if I told you his first name, it would just get confusing. Anyways, so what, pray chance, did Sturrow do for each of these students? And why should you read this book about three people and a professor? Well, to start off, the book starts off in the future 10 years after they graduated from Harvard, with Georgia, who is now married and has a child, and a reporter comes knocking on her door and asks if she would be willing to be interviewed about a very certain time of her life 10 years ago. She reluctantly agrees, lets him in, and we begin our story. So, 10 years ago, when Georgia first went to Harvard, she took a class that Sturrow taught, and she became infatuated with him, and she thought he was this big artistic voice of the generation, and he was attractive to boot. Huzzah. She liked he had kind of a cold exterior to some, like he turned people off with the way he talked. He talked a little bit kind of egotistically, and he would say things and not understand why people would be angry with him when he says them. But Georgia found all this attractive. And they begin to have an affair. Kind of. She does well. At first, it doesn't seem like they're having an affair. He just kind of gets her an apartment. They talk a lot, and then out of the blue, there they have the affair. And then they're having the affair during her time, not her 4 years at Harvard, but during the time when she knows Sturrow, they are having an affair. And so where do I go from there, from that saucy detail of the story? Well, George, I guess, can talk. I'll introduce each character in this way. So we learn about Georgia first and her affair, and then we learn about her childhood. She grew up with a artistic father who liked to do photography, and there was a big scandal when she was a little older, right before she went to college, because he used to take pictures of her when she was a child in the nude, but he would do them so artistically that you couldn't really tell that she was nude. But when he and her mother had a falling out, her mother tried to have him arrested for child pornography, and there was this big thing, and eventually mother and father divorced. Georgia went off with her father, traveling the country, being artistic, and all this. And then she manages to get her way to Harvard to get an education and all that. And that's her basic story. I mean, there's more to it than that, but that's the basic Georgia story. So she grows up, she becomes a very beautiful woman. She just kind of has this artsy, like, oh, I'm going to work in a gallery someday, and ba-da-da-da. So that's Georgia. The next character we're introduced to is Charlie. Charlie comes from a family where his father is a working man. He has an older brother and his mother is kind of follows whatever his father says. His older brother went into the military. Excuse me. His brother went into the military. There was an incident where he was discharged. Discharged from the army, from the military. I'm not going to be specific because I can't remember exactly where he went, but he was sent home due to an incident in the military, and Charlie always looks up to his brother and he wants to make him proud, so he got into Harvard, and he thought his family would be proud of him, but his father thinks he's trying to just outsmart all of them, and he doesn't appreciate it, and then his brother slowly starts following in his father's footsteps, doesn't want to go back into at first he was trying to fight the discharge and all this stuff for the military to get back in so that he could be a pilot, and his father slowly kind of draws him away from that because he kind of becomes a lazy a lazy guy like his dad. Because his dad is a working man, but he likes to sit out on a lawn chair and drink beer. So Charlie goes to Harvard, tries to make a name for himself. He runs for the student body president, whatever, and loses. So when he's celebrating his loss, he bumps into Georgia, who is the most beautiful woman he's ever seen, and he falls immediately in love with her, but she doesn't want to have a relationship with him because she's a free spirit. So he is basically a waddling duck after her, pining in love, and she basically plays him along, kind of giving him false hope, but he's too blinded by his own lust for her that he doesn't mind. But where does Sturrow place into all this? Obviously, there's a fight because they find out. No. Anyways, I'm jumping ahead. There's no fight. He doesn't know about Sturrow yet. He meets Sturrow when he's invited to I believe it was the Alpha House, which is a big house on Harvard, that he was invited to a dinner there, which is a very, very prestigious honor. And Sturrow happened to be the head of the house, and he invited a friend of Charlie who initially brought him. And all the students there are kind of turned off by Sturrow's talking, the way he talks, the way he presents himself, but Charlie is enthralled with Sturrow. He sees this man who is great and could be a great inspiration, and he was a military man, and he was everything. He was a military man, so he's like what his brother could have been, his brother that he looks up to. So it was kind of an idolatry coming on for Charlie and Sturrow, and that's Charlie's story. A little simpler than Georgia, I guess, except for the family thing. So our next character is Alice. Alice comes from a Serbian family that moved from Serbia. Well, not from Serbia. They actually moved from I can't remember the name of the country, but they are Serbian. They're Serbian culture. And her father was in love with America. He loved the idea of America. He wanted his children to grow up as Americans. He wanted to get an American job, have an American house, live the American dream. His wife, not so much. His wife didn't really want to be American. She just wanted to stay in Serbia. She didn't want to bother learning English. She knows a little bit, but not enough to, make friends, and she misses her homeland. And instead of trying to, get into the American dream and all that, she's like, we should just go back home where all my friends are, where all the people I can talk to are. I don't feel at home here. The only family I have here is my brother who lives far away, and and Alice is very much like her father. She's like, I love my father, this American dream. What is it? I want to be this. I want to have this. Unfortunately, her father dies. I believe it was a stroke. He had a stroke and he died, and her mother, seeing an opportunity, unable to go back to their home country, moves in with her brother, who actually lives in a neighborhood that is highly populated by Serbian immigrants. So she forces Alice to move here, forces her to try to kind of conform to what she wanted instead of what her father wanted, and Alice is just fighting against it, and then she goes through puberty and she becomes 6 feet she's come 6 foot tall. She gets like hair everywhere. Puberty. It's puberty. Hair starts growing in places, and you're like, whoa, no, what is this? So she's very uncomfortable with her body because she's like, I don't have an American body. I have a Serbian body. Grrr. Something like that. Not those exact words, but basically she just is very uncomfortable. She doesn't like living with her uncle and her mother, so she gets into Harvard. Tries to fulfill her father's American dream ideals that he wanted her to follow. She kind of cheats to get into Harvard a little bit, but she figures as long as she can get in, then she can do everything else straight. And then she goes into creative writing, and she becomes she joins the paper, the on-campus, one of the on-campus papers, and through that paper, she kind of knew about Georgia because she did an article about the top 10 hottest people, girls or whatever, in Harvard, and she kind of got to know Georgia through that a little bit, and Georgia just kind of intrigued her a little bit. She's like, there's this really hot, pretty girl who is like bouncing from like all these extracurricular activities, these majors and classes, and she's just kind of all over the place, and she just kind of has this weird ideal that reminds her kind of her father, and this idea of the American dream is whatever you want it to be, and Georgia kind of lives that way, so Alice is a little intrigued by her, and she gets to talking to her. She actually signs up for a class that Georgia's in just so she can get closer to her, and they slowly become friends, because Georgia finds Alice interesting, because Alice is so blunt and direct, and she has no shame, she has no, she'll say whatever's on her mind, there's no filter with her, and Georgia finds that so interesting, because everyone around her is always trying to be nice to her, trying to impress her, because she's so pretty. So she and Alice form this really strange friendship, and then Charlie meets Alice through Georgia, but he doesn't really like Alice, he doesn't like that harsh, straightforward, no censorship talk that she does. And Alice doesn't really meet Sturrow per chance. She just kind of discovers him through the talks that Georgia and Charlie have. She gets to know him later in the story, so let's just hop right into that. So those are our 3 main characters, and the gentleman that kind of ties their fates together. So what is this fate I keep talking about? What is this incident that happened 10 years ago that we are going back to, a reminder, and that this reporter came to talk to Georgia about? What is it? What is it? What is it? Well, here it is! So Sturrow has always been kind of, like I said, he was very cold. He has a very, very, very egotistical, very hard to get to know personality. And Georgia slowly starts to see him unraveling a little bit, just kind of getting more and more violent. And he tells her, it's like, well, the reason I'm just so upset, I'm so angry, and I'm so frustrated because I have this student in my class who just keeps arguing with me. And it's not like creative arguing, she's just arguing with me, she won't listen, and I don't understand. And the student that he's talking about is a girl named Julie Patel, an Indian girl. And she just doesn't appreciate how he talks, because he talks in a very old-fashioned way. So he says things that are very offensive to basically everyone. It's not even just a minority thing, but he says through his military background, he went to all these countries and he saw how poor they were, and how it was great that America came in and helped them because it brought them out of the Dark Ages. And he cited India as an example. It was great when America and the Western culture and England came in, and we brought them out of the dirt, and and Julie Patel gets offended because what are you talking about? And they just start these arguments, and he gets frustrated. So why do I bring that up? So Georgia eventually says, we can't see each other anymore because you're scaring me. You're becoming violent. I can't trust that you're gonna be stable enough to have a relationship with me. So, after she breaks up with him, kind of, and after she has after Alice discovers this affair has been going on, because she notices that George has been, like, sneaking off every weekend somewhere, and she's like, where are you going? What are you doing? Like, you're obviously not seeing friends, because no one ever sees you. So she discovers the affair, and that's kind of what tipped Georgia off a little bit more to, like, the fact that Sturrow's going a little crazy. So, anyways, after that, Alice confronts Georgia, they have a fight, Alice moves out of living with Georgia, and that night, the next morning, there is a report that Julie Patel has been found murdered. Murdered! Like, she had her neck snapped, like, broken, and everyone on campus is going, who? It had to have been Sturrow, because he kept, like, they would always fight all the time, and he was the last person to see her alive, like, his, like, da-da-da-da-da-da. And there's all this stuff, and then Alice, seeing an opportunity to kind of get back at Georgia and get back at Sturrow, who she knows caused their fight, writes this scathing article about Sturrow, about how he had affairs with not only Georgia, but a number of other female students, including Julie Patel. What? So that kind of destroys the last bonds of friendship that Alice and Georgia have, and then it also kind of destroys the friendship that Georgia and Charlie has, because he finds out about the affair through Alice, not necessarily through the article, but through Alice. Like, she eventually just tells him, like, she'd been sleeping with him. So Charlie is angry at Georgia for doing that. He's angry at Sturrow for doing that to Georgia and for, like, destroying this image that he had of him. And these three people who became friends at Harvard go off into their different ways. All their friendship destroyed completely by this man who is now being, like, suspected of murder of a girl they all barely knew. And that's when the story, like, just becomes different. Because they all go off, and they're all like, we're not friends anymore, graduation. They graduate. There's a memorial for Julie Patel. She gets a plaque placed on Bradstreet Gate. Oh, the name of the book! She gets a little plaque put on there with her name, talking about how she honored the ideals of Harvard and that. So, and that's only the first half of the book. What's the rest of the book about? So the rest of the book is about basically the three living their lives after they graduate Harvard. Charlie goes off and he, like, starts working in businesses. He does, like, he's assistants to big businesses. He does, like, paperwork, and he is an assistant to a gentleman for at one point, and then he gets an offer from an old college friend to help him with a startup company for security. And then Georgia goes, she just has to escape from all the things that are going on, like the scandal with Sturrow has, like, kind of tarnished her a little bit. Her father is suddenly not who he was when she was younger. He suddenly is just this, he is just someone looking for a way to earn quick money, because once it comes out that there was the affair and the murder and all that, he starts presenting works of art of Georgia again to get money, you know, making bank off the tragedy and all that. So she is, like, frustrated, so she leaves and goes off to India. And then Alice goes to New York, and she becomes a writer for a bunch of magazines and all this articles and all this, and she gets really into that big scene. Sturrow kind of flies under the radar. He does a couple interviews to, like, try to prove his innocence, only to come off as though he was the murderer, but he never gets charged. He's never arrested for it. There's never... because there was not enough proof. The only proof was that it looked like it had to have been someone with military training who killed her. Like, that, they were like, well, he hated her and he was from the military. Here. But there was no, like, DNA evidence, there were no witnesses and all that. So he kind of gets off a little scot-free, except that his reputation is horribly tarnished and he can't get a job being a teacher. He tries to get work with a fake name, but once people find out, it's all over. Like, it's just a constant buildup of like misery for him. This story has a happy ending. It has an ending. And this is where the book kind of dropped the ball for me. Because there's no real ending to this book. It's just kind of like a snapshot of 10 years of these three people's lives. And it just kind of comes full circle for the 10-year anniversary of Julie Patel's murder and the dedication of her plaque. And that's it. Like, they kind of come back together. They kind of rekindle their friendships. But, like, there's a scene where Charlie and Georgia show up together. Don't know how they met, got together, don't know how they decided they were going to go together. There's no discussion what they were talking about. And it's like, are they getting back together? What is going on? What's happening? Why are we not knowing? Why can't we hear what they're saying? And then Sturrow, what did he do it? Did he kill the girl? We never really find out that whether or not he killed the girl. And I don't know why. Normally that wouldn't bother me because it's kind of like, well, it's up to your own interpretation. But for this, I'm like, I feel like we should probably know by now. Like, you know? Like, the three of them knew, like, especially Georgia and Alice, they saw him the nights of the murder. So it's like, I feel like we should know by now whether or not he killed her. So, how was the book written? It was written well. The author is, what is she? It says on here she has an MFA in fiction from Columbia University, and she teaches writing so it's like, okay, so she knows how to write. We know you know how to write. We know you know how to create a story arc. We know you know how to create characters and da-da-da-da-da-da. But it just, and like, the life stories were interesting. The three main characters, their interactions with each other were interesting. But it's like the book didn't know, like, I don't know. The murder kind of felt pointless. Like, I felt like we didn't need the murder. Like, I think it would have been just as interesting of a story if a girl hadn't been murdered. I think it just added that extra, she just wanted a reason to get that guy fired and get, I don't know. It felt kind of like, I just need something big. I need something big to make the story big, and it didn't need it, because the book isn't about the murdered girl. It's about these three people and how their lives were changed because of one event. It just happened to be a really big event that, I don't know why it had to be so big. It could have just been that the affair came out. Like, that would have ruined his reputation too. I don't know why it couldn't have just been that. I don't know. So it kind of bothered me that this lady who's a writing instructor and who's gotten an MFA in fiction felt that she had to add a murder into this. Did somebody say, oh, it's not interesting enough. Maybe you should add like a murder into it. So it's like, if you're gonna put the murder in there, at least solve it, you know? Or at least make the interpretation a little more clear. Like, do you know whether or not he murdered him? Because you as the author should know whether or not he murdered her. And I'm going off on a tangent, but it was so frustrating. But I liked the book. Like I said, if the murder wasn't there, it would have still been a great book. Like, you could cut the parts out with the murder, and it just wouldn't even have changed it. Yeah, that's really all I have to say. That was the thing that bothered me. Silly, I know. Who doesn't want a murder in a book? It makes it more interesting. I don't know. It felt tacked in. It felt like it was added on in editing, you know? So, overall, like I said, I liked the book. But I mean, it was still okay. And I think it was just okay because it was a lot of added, you could tell things were added in at the, like, last minute a little bit. Maybe they weren't. Maybe they were always planned to be in there. Or maybe it was originally going to be a murder mystery, but then she just thought these three characters were so interesting, let's just write it about them. And then keep the murder in there, but let's not solve the murder. I don't know. So it was okay. It was an okay book. I'd read it again just for the great way she stringed the timelines together, because it was a lot of, like, flashing back and, like, getting these people's backstories and then flashing a little forward and then kind of going back to be like, oh yeah, well, now we're here at the memorial, but I remember this night when I was talking to him. So it was, like, great. It was interesting. It was an interesting read to see those, like, interchanging timelines, and it wasn't confusing. Like, you understood what was happening. Like, you understood, oh, now we're going into a flashback, or kind of a flashback, but now we're going back to when she was younger, or last year, or whatever. And it was fine. Like, that wasn't distracting. If you're gonna put a murder in a book, solve it. I don't know. I don't know why that's hard. Or, not make it so obvious that you want the audience to interpret. Did he? Or maybe she thought she was being clear and that he did do it. Or I don't know. So it was okay. I'm gonna keep saying that. It was okay. So I'll just get right to my scoring for it. I'm gonna just give it a 6 out of 10 because it bothers me too much that I put so much time into this story and these characters and their lives, and then I didn't even find out the thing that was supposed to have changed their lives forever. I didn't even find out whether it was actually something that should have changed their lives forever. So 6 out of 10, great writing, good. If you want a good example of how to write different timelines together, this is a good one for you. Yeah, 6 out of 10. 6 out of 10. So yeah. I hope you'll join me next time on Wiggy Reviews. I'm gonna probably review a book that's not as frustrating, I hope. I can't predict until I finish a book whether or not it's gonna frustrate me or not. So I'll see you next time for Wiggy Reviews, and 6 out of 10 for Bradstreet Gate by Robin Kirman, and I'll see you next time. Bye!